The sound of gunfire echoed through the slopes. Sand, blood, and smoke mixed in the scorching air of the valley. 12 men surrounded. No call for reinforcements being answered. The enemy was on every flank, and the silence on the radio already sounded like a sentence. Then it happened. A single shot fired from afar cut through the chaos. Then another, and another each shot. One target down, each breath. A perfect calculation. No one knew where it came from. But when the wind shifted, they saw the silhouette atop the hill, and still calm, lethal. The legend began there. Her name, Claire Monroe. The wind blew sharp across the Korash forward base firing range. It was the kind of morning when even the sun seemed hesitant to rise. Sergeant Claire Monroe, 34, advanced reconnaissance sniper of the U.S. Marine Corps, had been awake for hours before the rest of the platoon. Lying on the cold ground, she watched the mist crawl between the hills, calculating wind rhythm and air density, not for training but out of habit. To her, every gust was a language the world spoke, and she had learned to understand it since childhood. Raised in the arid mountains of rural Nevada, Claire learned early that isolation can be a brutal teacher. By 12, she hunted to survive. By 17, she could read the wind better than she could read people. Precision wasn't a gift, it was survival. And when she joined the Marines, she brought with her that inhuman calm that even battle-hardened veterans found unsettling. But none of that shielded her from judgment. When she was assigned to Recon Unit 23, the reactions were silent but obvious. A mix of doubt and discomfort rippled through the corridors. Most of her comrades had never served alongside a female sniper. And to many of them, Claire was nothing more than an operational anomaly. They called her the Nameless Shadow, a nickname born from their unease with her quiet demeanor, and from the precision no other marksman in the unit could match. Colonel Maddox, commander of the Korash base, once observed her during a live-fire exercise. While the others fired in sequence, Claire didn't move. She seemed too still. One of the Marines muttered, "She's going to miss the timing. She's waiting too long." But she didn't hear them. The world had narrowed to a calculation: direction, speed, light refraction. Then a single shot. The bullet struck a moving target at 200 meters. The colonel simply folded his arms and murmured, "She doesn't wait. She chooses the moment the world breathes." Still, her composure made people uneasy. The clinical gaze, the constant silence, the lack of emotion after every hit. There was something about Claire Monroe that made others uncomfortable, as if her calm were a provocation. She lived by a personal rule: never speak before you aim. It was a reminder of a mistake that haunted her since a past operation, the day she hesitated to confirm an order and a partner died before the shot. Since then, she swore never again to let doubt be faster than the bullet. That morning, Recon Unit 23 was preparing to provide visual support for a civilian extraction in an insurgent zone. A UH-60 helicopter waited on the tarmac. Claire tightened her vest buckle, grabbed her rifle and walked toward the ramp. An officer stepped in front of her. "New assignment. You're staying on base, Monroe." "Direct order from command." She didn't answer. She just watched the rotor spin, lifting dust and silence. The Black Hawk rose and vanished between the hills. And she felt it, and something was wrong. The same feeling that comes before death. Minutes later, Claire made her way alone to her advanced observation post on a ridge west of the valley. From there, she would monitor the mission through radio and long-range optics. But when the radio cracked with static and screams, she already knew. This mission wouldn't be remembered for what happened in the valley, but for who appeared on the hill. The distant echo of engines still vibrated in the air when Claire grabbed the secondary radio from her backpack and manually tuned the frequency. Static. Interference. Then a voice cut by noise. "Delta Squad, under heavy fire." Position compromised, her heart froze. The transmission was coming from the Korash Valley, the same location the squad had been sent to just minutes earlier. She looked at the tactical map folded into the sleeve pocket. The terrain formed a funnel, 2 high ridges enclosing a narrow corridor. If the enemy controlled the high ground, there would be no escape. And judging by the explosions echoing in the distance, that was exactly what was happening. Without waiting for authorization, Claire slung the backpack over her shoulders and started climbing the western ridge, which gave her a direct view of the valley. The sun was already up, turning the air hot and sharp. Dust rose with every step, mingling with the muffled sound of gunfire. The radio stayed alive. Confused orders, cries for help, silence. Down in the valley, Delta Squad was trying to regroup. 12 Marines, now reduced to 7, were pinned down among the wreckage of a logistics truck. Extraction routes were compromised. Lieutenant Harris, wounded in the shoulder, tried to keep the unit together while the enemy, a well-armed insurgent group, advanced from both flanks. Communications were cut. Support drones had vanished from radar. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. The operation was a setup, a carefully staged plan to lure the team into the valley. And from the ridge, Claire watched the chaos unfold like a living map. She unfolded the rifle's tripod, pressing the stock to her shoulder with mechanical precision. She adjusted the scope, calibrating the aim through the sun's reflection on the rocks. Every movement was a silent calculation. Crosswind air density, 900 meters of distance. Her finger rested on the trigger, but she waited. She had learned to wait. Down below, one of the insurgents raised a grenade launcher, taking aim at the survivors. Claire exhaled, slow and steady. Shot. The sound cracked through the valley, clean, sharp. The insurgent dropped before he could pull the trigger. On the radio, confused voices tried to locate where the shot had come from. What, West Ridge? Someone's up there. The lieutenant lifted his eyes, catching only a glint of sunlight reflecting off a high point on the slope. Who the hell is shooting? No one answered. Claire adjusted her scope again and changed the magazine. With each shot, an insurgent fell. With each silence, the valley seemed to breathe again. Meanwhile, the enemy tried to retaliate, tracing the origin of the gunfire. Light artillery began targeting the ridge. Rock fragments exploded around her, clouds of dust rising. But Claire didn't flinch. The squad, once disoriented, began moving again under her cover. They follow the sound. Anyone still alive, follow the sound. The lieutenant shouted into the radio, his voice raw. Claire heard him, and answered only with another shot. The sound carried across the valley like a promise. Down below, through smoke and fire, the squad began to believe there was still a way out. The first soldier to look up saw the silhouette cut against the sky, still cold, almost indistinguishable from the rocks. It's her, he murmured. The next shot confirmed it. The sniper had appeared at the top of the hill. The dry crack of the last shot still echoed as Claire shifted position. She couldn't stay in the same spot for more than 10 seconds. The dust kicked up by enemy fire created a dense curtain, perfect for masking her movements. She crawled toward a larger rock, steadied the rifle, and took a deep breath. The wind had changed direction. That could cost her a shot, or a life. Down below, Delta Squad advanced in a zigzag through the wreckage. With every push forward, Claire covered a flank, taking out targets that had no idea where the shots were coming from. She didn't shoot on instinct. She shot by calculation. Distance, angle, reflection. Everything passed through her eyes before becoming a decision. The radio crackled again. "Unknown sniper, identify yourself." Claire hesitated. The voice belonged to the commander. "Sniper, who are you?" Silence was her answer. She changed magazines, lay flat again, and adjusted the focus. A glint of metal on the opposite ridge caught her attention. Something reflecting the sun. Claire froze. Another sniper. The world seemed to stop. 2 scopes aligned, 2 ghosts waiting for the smallest mistake. She held her breath, heart pounding in her ears. The wind's vibrations sliced through the silence. A shot rang out. Rock shards exploded inches from her face. Claire rolled to the side, recalculating in seconds. Judging by the impact height, the enemy was roughly 100 meters away, positioned on higher ground. She repositioned the rifle, adjusted the scope to compensate for distance and crosswind. Her finger rested on the trigger, but her mind was calm, cold as the metal in her hands. The other sniper fired again. This time she saw the flash before the sound. She corrected her aim 1 centimeter to the left, exhaled and fired. The impact sent the enemy's body tumbling backward, disappearing into the dust. Silence. Down in the valley, the squad saw enemy fire suddenly stop. The lieutenant lifted his face, one hand to his headset. "Whoever's up there." "Whoever you are." "Thank you." Claire didn't answer. She packed up the rifle, took a deep breath, and began the slow descent down the slope. Every step was measured, every sound controlled. When she finally reached the edge of the valley, she saw their faces, covered in soot, eyes wide with fear. And gratitude, the lieutenant approached. You came alone. She nodded, hood still up. I was assigned for overwatch, but didn't have time to report. The man smiled, exhausted. Then that's the best report we've ever gotten. Claire looked toward the horizon. The distant sound of evacuation helicopters was already approaching, but deep down she knew the mission didn't end here. Something was wrong. Switched coordinates, broken communications, an enemy far too prepared. She turned her gaze to the enemy sniper's body lying among the rocks. Same weapon, same model, same training. A chill ran down her spine. This hadn't just been a battle. It was a warning. And from the top of the hill the wind seemed to whisper something she didn't yet understand. But that would change everything. The helicopter landed amid the dry afternoon wind. Claire kept her hood low, eyes fixed on the horizon, the same one where hell had begun only hours earlier. The lieutenant stepped out first, staggering, followed by the survivors. No one spoke. The radio, once filled with static and desperation, now felt heavy with silence. Inside the improvised hangar, officers were waiting, suits, folders, and cold eyes. Full report on the operation, one of them ordered. Claire handed over the optical recorder from her tactical visor, still covered in dust. You sent that squad to die, she said firmly. The silence in the room was instant. Explain yourself, Sergeant Munro. She took a steady breath. The ambush was planned. The extraction coordinates were switched. The enemy sniper was using our own equipment. That's not a coincidence. One of the officers crossed his arms. Are you suggesting treason within the force? Claire stared straight at him. No, sir. I'm stating it. A pause. A glance exchanged. Then the cold order. You're dismissed. Until further notice, you are not to speak to anyone. She left the room in silence, but inside something had already changed. The war Claire fought on the hill hadn't ended with the last shot. It had simply changed shape. Now it was a war against the system itself. In the following days, reports disappeared. Files were rewritten. Her name vanished from the mission logs. No medal, no recognition, just erasure. But among the soldiers who survived, the story spread like fire beneath the snow. The sniper who appeared out of nowhere. The woman who held the line alone. Claire was transferred north, officially as an instructor. Unofficially to be forgotten. There among frozen mountains and howling winds, she trained recruits with the same calm precision she once aimed a rifle. She never spoke of the hill. But those who watched her closely could tell every word, every motion was a lesson on the price of courage. One night, while adjusting a cadet's precision rifle, an envelope was left on her desk. No sender. Inside, a single photograph, the body of the enemy sniper lying among the rocks. On the back, a handwritten message. He wasn't one of them. He was one of ours. Claire stared at the image for a long moment. Then she turned off the light and stayed in silence. The world believed the Koran mission had been a tactical mistake. But she knew the truth. Someone within command had used her as a pawn. And that pawn was still alive and watching. Months later, along the borderlands where radios barely worked, rumors began to spread. Of a lone sniper, of shots that came from nowhere. Of a ghost on the hills, one who never missed. Some swore it was just a legend. Others said it was vengeance. But for those who survived that morning, there was only one truth. When everything seemed lost, she was up there, watching. Thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next episode, where every mission tells a story.